Have you ever had something you cherished taken away from you unexpectedly? How did that make you feel? And do you think shutting down schools during the pandemic was a protective shield or a double-edged sword towards our kids' mental health?
So you say you're not the only voice in your kids' ears, so you have to be the best voice. Explain that.
Well, think about it. In like 08, 09, smartphones came on and kids they stopped living their lives and started watching people live their lives. And so we saw the biggest spike and the highest levels of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and suicidality since records have ever been kept. And it's just continued on and on and on. And then COVID hits 10 years later, and the same agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down? And by the way, when they shut it down, they stopped the mandated reporters from being able to see children that were being abused and sexually molested, and in fact sent them home and abandoned them to their abusers with no way to watch, and referrals dropped 50 to 60%. So
there was also a pandemic going on, and they were trying to save
kids' lives. Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
What's going on, crew? Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you decided to press play and spend some time with me today. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with this video. I mean, after I watched the full episode on The View, I had so much opinions. I didn't know if I was going to do a clip. I didn't know if I was actually going to do an article. So what I decided to do was just have a fireside chat with you. I'm going to go ahead and leave a link for this video down in the description section so you can listen to the video without my rambling or a commentary. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you my take on how I felt about the whole exchange between Dr. Phil and The View. All right, here we go. So my audience isn't young, right? Most of you are probably like between 30 and 65 or somewhere around in there, where the wisdom is a little ripe, and let's just say you got opinions, especially about what Dr. Phil dropped on The View as far as the COVID lockdowns. And right now you're nodding your head like Jack Nicholson, because let's face it, you've been saying this all along at the dinner table, haven't you? So here's the deal. Dr. Phil, yeah, the same guy who's been in our living room TV longer than that mystery stain on the carpet, finally said what a lot of people have been saying about those school closures. They did a number on our kids' heads. And who's surprised? Not us, that's for damn sure. We watched our kids go from playground high fives to Zoom zombies, trapped in a screen time loop like some bad sci-fi flick. You remember when school shut down like a snow day that never ended? I mean, we all got it. There was a nasty bug going around. And by no means am I downplaying the seriousness of COVID by calling it a bug, but it was a nasty thing that was going around. But then one day turned into a month, the month into a season. Next thing you know is a whole doggone year and more. Our kids missed out on more than just algebra. They missed out on life stuff, friends, dances. My son didn't even have a chance to go on his prom. That nervous bellyache before the big game, gone. And what did we get instead? A heavy dose of isolation and a crash course on how to be a hermit at 10 years old. So let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it real. Or how my older folks would say, let's talk turkey. Dr. Phil said these youngins were the least likely to be affected by the virus. But boy, did they get the short end of the stick on everything else. And you can't help but think, what gives? Because when you and I were growing up, if you didn't scrape a knee, lose a big game, or get your heart broken by your crush, did you even really grow up? Now Whoopi, aka Ezekiel from The Walking Dead, jumped in and said, we were trying to save lives. And you know what, Whoopi, I'll give you that. They were trying to save lives. But the question you have to ask yourself is, at what cost? We all seen it, right? That kid down the block that used to shoot hoops till dusk, but now he barely cracks a smile. Our nieces and nephews, you know, the ones who used to always have their nose in the book, but now can't concentrate long enough to read microwave instructions. Anyway, back to Dr. Phil. I was highly impressed about how he had the numbers to back up what he was saying. He talked about the fact that there were reports showing that kids are more down in the dumps than ever. And not just because they can't see their friends, but because their whole support system got yanked faster than a tablecloth in a magic trick. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what's the solution? Because we're all wise enough to know that there's no easy fix. But at least somebody is stirring the pot and getting the conversation going. Because if we can't talk about what's eating away at our kids' joy, how are we going to help them? It's like that old clunker you got in the driveway or the one in your backyard. If you don't pop the hood and get your hands dirty, that thing's just going to rust and rot until it's nothing but a pile of parts. So shout out to Dr. Phil for not just talking about the latest gossip or whatever's trending on X. And for us, the seasoned bunch, the ones with a few laugh lines and a little bit of wisdom to share, It's up to us to keep the conversation going. So the next time you're at a barbecue or in the line at the grocery store, don't be shy. Chat it up about the kids today, the schools, the whole shebang. Because when it comes right down to it, America's a village, or at least it should be. That's what I believe anyway. So let's lace up our sneakers. Well, some of you actually may have to strap up your sneakers, or tennis shoes as they used to call them back in the day, but that's okay. The point I'm trying to make is it's time to get in the game because the kids need us. And heaven knows we've got the experience and just enough spunk to make a difference. And that, my friends, is no rant. It's just plain talk. Or as my generation would say, I'm just keeping it 100. Now, I got a question for you. If hindsight is 2020, what have we truly learned about balancing our kids' physical health and mental well-being? If you enjoyed this content and you want to see more like it, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to thank you in advance for checking out my other videos. So until the next one, I'll catch you in the comments. I'm gone.